Good evening, everyone. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful day so far. I got a good one for you today. So, the English debate between the liberals has finally happened, and it was something to say that. It was a lot of, oh, Trump this, Trump that. Oh, Pierre Polyev is horrible. I'm going to totally beat him, yada, yada, yada. And I promise you, I will not play the whole 3 hours for you guys and subject you to that. So, this will probably be a two-part video. And with no further ado, let's get into it. But first, if you like this video, please subscribe and definitely comment. Now, let's get into it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Frank Bayless, and I'm a professional engineer. As a bit
Does anybody know who this guy even is? Like, we've only seen Mark Carney, Christopher Freeland, and Gould. I didn't even know this guy really existed until now.
with that, I've created thousands of good-paying, high-technology jobs. I know how to build strong teams. I know how to find good people and work with them to achieve results. I've also been elected as a member of parliament from 2015 to 2019. So I have an understanding of how government works. Now, this combination of my private sector and my public sector experience puts me in a unique position to be able to build systems, work with the government, and make it work for all Canadians. Now, I recognize that we're living in challenging times, but having said that, I'm very optimistic about our future. Yes, I believe in Canadians and I believe in Canada, and with my plan, I'm certain we'll reach our full potential. I'm going to focus on three priorities. Number one, I want to build a strong and resilient economy that we all benefit from. Number two, I want to improve our healthcare system so that it becomes the best healthcare system in the world. And it's not going to cost more money, it's going to save money. And three, I want to modernize the federal government such that it becomes much more efficacious, better at delivering services to our Canadian citizens. Together, we will build a proud and prosperous Canada for all Canadians.
Mr. Bayless, thank you kindly for that. Ms. Gould, your 9.
Is it just me, or did anybody else hear that big go on while he was speaking? That is some terrible mic control there. Starting this off on a poor footing.
90 seconds starts right now.
Meeting the moment. That's why we're here tonight. Growing up in a middle-class family in Burlington, Ontario, and now having 2 kids of my own, I get what Canadians are going through. Worrying about how to pay your mortgage, keep gas in the tank, or whether you'll be able to retire. I know it hasn't been easy, as we face serious challenges to our economy and to our sovereignty. But these challenges also present us with incredible opportunities to unite our country, defend our economy, and protect our values from the threats we are facing from south of the border and our own little version of Trump here at home. I got into politics to do good things for Canadians. And with a decade of experience, I know how to get that done. I am so proud to be Canadian, especially right now, as Canadians across this country meet the moment. And tonight, each of us on this stage need to meet the moment. Tonight, I am going to raise the tough questions we need to confront as Liberals, have an honest conversation about where we stand on the big issues we face as Canadians, and present a clear plan for the future of this country. If we do not do that, we will lose the next election. Our opponents may wish that Canada is broken, but we know as Liberals, this is a great country. Now is the time for hope. I am the leader we need, and together we can build the Canada we want. And I'm asking you to join me.
Ms. Gould, thank you kindly.
So it's funny that she acknowledges that Canadians are hurting and Canadians are having a bad time right now, and yet she's the one candidate who wants to keep in the carbon tax. The one thing that everybody pretty much hates, or the majority hates. And then she goes on to say that Pierre Poilievre's a little Trump. The ridiculousness keeps on pouring out of her mouth.
Ms. Freeland, you're up next.
A few weeks ago in Saskatoon, I met a 4-year-old girl named Ari. She asked me, "Can you stop Trump from invading Canada?" Ari is a smart girl, and she's asking the right question. I'm running to be leader of the Liberal Party and the next Prime Minister of Canada because Trump is posing the gravest challenge our country has faced since the Second World War. He's threatening us with economic warfare. That's not new. Last time, he threatened to rip up NAFTA, and he imposed tariffs on our steel and aluminum. I fought back, and I won. This time, Trump's threats are even worse. He wants to make us the 51st state. Trump is unleashed and empowered. As your Prime Minister, I will be too. I have the experience, the plan, and the guts to stand up to Trump, to tell him that Canada is not for sale, and if he hits us, we'll hit him back. We need a leader who understands the seriousness of the challenge and is ready to meet it. A leader who can say to Ari and to everyone across our great country, "I will fight for you. I will fight for Canada. And together, we will win."
Ms. Freeland, thank you kindly. And we move now.
So that's kind of interesting how Christopher Freeland says that Trump right now is posing the second greatest challenge that we have since the Second World War. Where does she not remember the little thing we called COVID and the COVID crisis we had all over the world that she said that, oh, this was the worst crisis since World War II. I think actually that locked everybody down in Canada was a little bit worse than what Trump poses. Plus, she's going on about him making Canada the 51st state when he was just trolling on the Liberal government. And it's hilarious how they're using it as a talking point now. So, I find the other funny thing is she doesn't mention the 2008 financial crisis as one of the worst crises in Canada's history, because we actually had a prime minister who was able to deal with that very smoothly, unlike Trudeau and the COVID crisis. So, just saying.
To Mark Carney.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Carney. I was born in the Northwest Territories, and I grew up in Edmonton. During my career, I had the honor of serving our country, including as governor of the Bank of Canada during the financial crisis of 2008. Right now, as my colleagues have said, Canada faces one of the most serious crises in our history. To get through it, we will need to build a strong economy, and that requires big changes. Canadians have been telling me that they want change. They want positive change that builds this country. I can bring that change. I know how to manage crises. I know how to build strong economies. Yes, there are a lot of uncertainties, but during a crisis, it's important to distinguish what you can't control and what we can control. We can't change Donald Trump, but we can control our economic destiny. We are masters in our own home. I have a plan that puts more money back in your pockets, a plan that makes our companies more competitive, a plan that builds a strong economy that works for you. Canadians are ready to stand up for their country. I'm ready to stand with them and bring the right change for Canada. Thank you.
Mr. Carney.
He also forgot he was some sort of shadow financial minister of the leader or of the Liberal Party of Canada, And he says he knows how to build strong economies. I think he's talking about when he used to work for the Bank of England. And yeah, we can see how well England is doing right now. Sorry for all you UK watchers if you're watching. Let me know if I'm wrong, but is your economy really doing very well right now? So, I don't think that's something that Mark Carney should be propping himself up on.
Bernie, thank you. Thank you all. And we're going to get right into our first theme of this evening, Canada's place in the world. So for all these 1-minute questions, you are all going to get that 1-minute chance to answer the same question. And that's where we're starting this evening. And here's a warm-up for you tonight because it comes from Deborah in British Columbia. But I think Deborah really is showing what many Canadians are asking right now. She asks, how will you stand up for Canada against US President Donald Trump? But I would like to add to what she has to say, why are you the best person positioned to do this? And the order was picked ahead of time. And Mr. Bayless, you're first on this. 1 minute on the clock.
Thank you. So I've negotiated hundreds and hundreds of contracts with Americans over my 40-year career. And from time to time, I run into the character of Mr. Trump. So it's not new to me. On this point, I published a letter one day before his inauguration when I said clearly he's not going to put 25% tariffs on everything, but he is going to attack certain industries. The first one I said he's going to attack is steel. It's exactly what he did. I tell you this to tell you that I know how to deal with him. And it's important to understand that Mr. Trump is a bully. And you do not give 1 inch to a bully. In that case, we cannot be learning this on the job. That's where I come in. I have the experience and the expertise to deal with Donald Trump. I can predict what he'll do, and then I can help build our defenses to stop him from doing those things, and also counterattack, which unfortunately is going to be necessary. This way, I will protect our country, I will protect our economy, I will protect our culture, and I will protect our sovereignty.
Bang on time for the 1 minute. Appreciate that.
Doesn't that whole speech just sound like every other Liberal candidate on this stage? They're like duplicates of each other. Nothing's different between these candidates.
Mr. Bayless, Mr. Carney, over to you now.
Thank you very much, Hannah. I think in a situation like this, you need experience in terms of crisis management. You need negotiating skills, but you also need economic expertise because part of the way to deal with this situation is to do what we should have been doing and what we need to do as a country, which is to build a strong economy. Now, we're going to spend time on building a strong economy, so I'll go through my plan for that later. But let me start by being clear. We will never, ever be part of the United States in any way, shape, or form. We have to recognize that the Donald Trump of today is different than the Donald Trump of several years ago. Then his objective was to take more of our market. Now he wants to take our country. Let me finish by pointing out one other thing. Who's the worst person to stand up to Donald Trump? It's Pierre Poilievre. He worships the man. He uses his language. He's not the right person for our country at this crucial time.
Again, thank you for sticking.
How does Pierre Poilievre worship Donald Trump? Pierre Poilievre literally came out and said he will do dollar for dollar tariffs if Donald Trump brings his tariffs in. That's not worship. That's exactly what these liberal candidates are saying. And I don't agree with that. I say bring tariffs in incrementally, but hey, I'm not a politician. I'm just a dude who listens and reads to stuff on the internet.
To time on that, Ms. Gould, you're up now.
Thanks, Hannah, and thanks, Deborah, for the question. Look, men like Donald Trump have always underestimated leaders like me. But they underestimate me, and that's their mistake. And I think as Canadians, we know what that's like. We know how to stand up for who we are and to stand up to bullies. And that's something that I've been doing in the House of Commons for the last decade. I know how to stand up to people like Pierre Poilievre, who, when it comes to Donald Trump, would rather imitate him than stand up for Canada. I know how to stand up to people who want to take from us what is rightfully ours. We are a proud, sovereign country, and as Canadians, we have so much to offer, but also the Americans depend on us. And you can't bring a calculator to a knife fight. You have to fight very strongly and with the right tools, and that's exactly what I'm going to do as Prime Minister.
Ms. Gould, thank you kindly.
What did that even mean? A calculator to a knife fight? I think with our economy, a calculator would actually be a better tool than a knife. And her saying that she'll stand up for Canadians' rights is hilarious because wasn't she one of the ministers who voted to bring in the Emergencies Act, which literally destroyed a bunch of people's charters and rights and freedoms? It locked their bank accounts, it stole money from them, and it allowed the RCMP to break into their vehicles at gunpoint, drag them out, and arrest them. And I think we still have a couple of the leaders from that protest in the court system right now. And she's talking about Canadians' rights. That is hilarious.
Finally, we're going to move into our first 5-minute debate.
I think you forgot Christy.
Oh my.
Yeah. Very nice one. You kind of forgot one candidate there. Well, I mean, Krista Freeland is kind of forgettable, just saying.
Gosh.
That's no
First
problem.
mistake by the moderator. My apologies. Ms. Freeland, thank you.
Thanks, Hannah. Trump represents the biggest threat our country has seen since the Second World War. I have recognized that from the outset.
Like I said, I'm sorry, I have to stop this here because that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. There was the 2008 financial crisis, and then there was COVID. And let's not forget swine flu. That was freaking crazy, if you guys remember that one. So, Donald Trump, it's not the same thing. It's just he trolls people and the liberals are going nuts.
I've built my campaign on a plan to answer that threat. I do think, though, it is a big mistake for Canadians to think that because we can't change Trump, we can't negotiate with him. Of course we can't change him, but we can outwit him. And the way to do that is by using our leverage, by recognizing that, yes, we depend on the US, but they depend on us too. We are their largest market by far. We sell them the things we need. A smart, tough negotiator who stands up to Trump can activate those Americans who need us, get them to lobby him. That's how we get a win-win outcome. That's how Canada wins.
And now we will move in.
At least what I could say about Krista Freeland is her talking points are a little bit different than pretty much every other candidates on this panel. So at least she's got that going for her, which isn't much, but it is what it is. What can you expect out of Krista Freeland?
Into that first 5-minute debate. Thank you for pointing that out. This is an open debate. Mr. Bayless, we'll start first with you. Others can join in on this debate, but please try not to talk over each other too much. We will control that. So here's the question. Knowing the why is vital in negotiations, or you're essentially just negotiating against yourself. So why is President Trump doing this to Canada?
Well, President Trump needs to show that he has a win on the border. And he's got himself elected by saying...
So I'm just going to skip all of this. Let me know down below if you want me to watch all of, or comment on all of this. Because all of it is just bashing on Donald Trump and what these liberals are going to do to combat him. Yeah, in their dreams. So we'll move over to the economy, which is more important.
Times. As Prime Minister, what would your priority be to strengthen our economy?
Well, I think I'll start my answer by saying this will be one of my top priorities jointly with these issues that we just touched on, largely with the U.S. and the threats to our security. A focus on building our economy on several layers. First and foremost, this is a time to build. We have an enormous opportunity to build our economy. That means building millions of homes. We're millions of homes short in this country. Everyone who's trying to buy a home is aware of that, particularly the young. It's building infrastructure, both conventional energy infrastructure and clean energy infrastructure. It's building up on the conversation we just had, on intelligence infrastructure. It is diversifying our trade partners with new trading routes, and it's creating one Canadian economy instead of 13. That's what's necessary to move this country forward from where we are today, which has become quite a weak position economically.
We will dig into some of those topics a bit more. Ms. Gould, you're up next.
Well, at least he acknowledges we're in a weak position economically, but he doesn't really say how we're going to build those homes. I mean, there's not enough tradesmen out there to build the amount of homes for the amount of people they're bringing in per year. So the math doesn't line up.
I think your question was actually about the cost of living for Canadians. It wasn't about, the macroeconomic picture, which we know is doing okay for Canada. But when Canadians, people, don't feel like that, it's not working for them. I'm glad to hear, my colleague talk about housing. It's one of the first times I've heard him talk about it during this campaign. I put out a very bold, ambitious plan on housing that would eliminate homelessness, that would build millions of homes, and that would help first-time homebuyers get into the market. I've proposed a 1% GST tax cut from 5 to 4% to help Canadians with the immediate cost of everything. And I've put forward a plan to modernize our social safety net and put us on a path towards a basic income. Canadians are struggling. We need to help them make ends meet. That's what leadership looks like, and that's what the economy means to me. It's about people.
Ms. Gould, thank you. Mr. Bailey?
Yeah, no basic income. We've seen through various governments how a basic income works. In the UK, they tried a universal basic income and it failed epically. Did you not see what happened during the great cold of 2020 and all the inflation giving out money brought to our economy, where we are right now? And would anybody trust the government to give out this basic income? Because they couldn't handle it during COVID. They gave it to like people in prison, criminals, people who are dead. So how much money are they going to waste through bureaucracy and through giving this to scammers and criminals this time?
Ellis, you're up for a minute.
Yes, I put together a plan, an economic plan. I call it my prosperity plan. And I'm going to bring fiscal discipline to Ottawa. And yes, we're going to have to stop running deficits. It has a direct impact on the value of our dollar, and that has a direct impact on affordability. So I will not be cutting the GST. I'm going to modernize our healthcare system to get it to do a lot better with less. That's our biggest spend for provinces, our biggest transfer from the federal government. I'm going to increase productivity. This is something I know from my work in business, but it's something as well that I'm going to bring to government. And also, I'm going to do a lot of procurement as much as possible within our trade rules from Canadian companies. Together, this is going to put us on the right path. Now, people say, what date? What date, Frank, are you going to end deficits? I can't give you a date, but what I can say is this. We're going to stop going down this pathway, and we're going to start going down this pathway of budgetary balanced budgets. And this is going to raise our dollar, and that'll be better for everyone in the long run.
Okay, and 1 minute now to Ms. Freeland.
So we're going to do it eventually. Don't worry. I promise it'll get done.
All economic plans today have to start with an effective response to President Trump. He is the biggest economic menace our country and Canadians are facing. I have a plan to make us united, strong, and smart, and to win. I think we also all recognize that President Trump is also handing us a golden opportunity. Canadians right now really get how wonderful Canada is, and they understand we're under threat. And so today we have a chance, a once in a generation chance, to make Canada stronger, richer, more prosperous, more resilient. I'm going to seize that opportunity. I'm going to cut interprovincial trade barriers. I'm going to cut red tape and get things built. I'm going to use government procurement not to send checks to the US, but to invest in Canadian jobs and Canadian companies. That's how we make Canada stronger, more resilient. That's how we stand up to President Trump.
We are going to move into the 5-minute sections.
The interesting the interesting thing is this woman was finance minister for how long and she didn't do any of that? So who thinks that she's actually gonna do that when she's in power? She's just gonna mouth these pieces off. Just this is what she's gonna do. She's gonna get into power and then she's gonna say, "Oh, it's Trump's fault. It's Trump's fault that we're losing money. It's Trump's fault this. It's Trump's fault that." And she's gonna spend money like there's no tomorrow, and it's just gonna go down the governmental drain of bureaucracy, and Canadians won't see any of it. It already happened under Trudeau, and she was the finance minister during that. So I don't see how her as prime minister would be any different. Anyways, we're running a little along here. We're hitting at the 30-minute mark. Let me know what you guys think about this debate so far. What do you think about their views on how they're going to fix the economy? And let me know what you think about their views on Donald Trump, because I think it's pretty night and day, but, other than that, I'll have a part 2 for you probably tomorrow morning, and that'll include the debate on this economy section and a lot of the rest of the stuff. But other than that, that's all I got for you. Have a great day.